we're going to be dealing with, and I'll explain that to help you understand, why can I talk when I want to talk? Why can I hug when I want to hug? Why can't I do the things I want to do when I want to do them? Because your impulses have been crushed. And so my impulse just to help out or whatever it may be, I have to really stop and check in before I make the move, because I got to see, what am I feeling right now? What am I feeling? What's really going on inside of me? Because I don't know. Sometimes, you know, my wife would say, especially when I was really trying to break out, I remember you would say, well, why didn't you say that? Jill would ask me, well, why didn't you say that? And I had enough wherewithal to say, I didn't know to say that. I said, if I had known to say that in the beginning, we wouldn't have had this hour conversation. But I really didn't know that that's what I needed to say. Are y'all following me?
And can I say that I think I mentioned this the last week to say that, you know, make sure when you're communicating with someone, you're able to show them your love before your fear. And if I can say that, Deron could tell me his fear, but then when we got to the end and it sounded like lots of complaints, then we got to the end of the conversation, it was, I was concerned about you. I'm saying, I wish you just said that up on the front end, because then I would have followed your conversation from the point of concern versus the point of complaint. But I think what he's saying is that, you know, when you as a kid were shown that something that you wanted to do spontaneously was annoying.
Right.
Whenever a kid wants to be picked up, they're communicating something to you. And if you treat them as if they're spoiled, they have no idea what that means, and you treat them that way, then you send them the signal that something is wrong with their communication. So later on in life, when it comes time to communicate that with others, maybe yours is talking. Maybe someone told you when you were younger, you asked too many questions.
Right.
You know, and so now you think that people are annoyed with you when you ask questions. So there's so much information that you don't get because some time ago someone treated something very important to you as annoying.
So what does danger, now let's talk, that's great, Jill. So say for instance, she says, well, I wish you had said that in the beginning. We're going to talk about it as we keep going. But when she says, I wish you had said that in the beginning, then my ego would jump in and say, but I'm saying it now. I mean, that's all I was saying, or I'm saying it now, so can't we just get with that? But because I am present with myself, I just say, I didn't know to say that, but that's what I meant. And I just go ahead and submit and just say that now, as opposed to allow my ego to jump in and create one more mess.
But do you know, Deron, I think this is something I felt so strongly. See, when you're younger and you have a certain kind of critical parent, you can't talk to them about how you feel. You first have to make it some emergency. You have to be sick for them to treat you nice.
Right.
For them to be nice, you have to tell them, oh, you ain't really that sick. But you got to sell them on a sick, some other conversation just so that you can get your point in. Other than that, you're getting on their nerves.
So what that means is that your critical parent kills your impulse.
That's it.
And it doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means they kill your impulse to want to be free. Mm-hmm. And so let's go on. We call this the foursome. When we think about it, all our suffering, our loss is derived from some form of emotional attachment. We've been dealing with that. Relationships, careers, values, opinions, and objects. And so we've established over this series that you can have an attachment to relationships, attachment to your career, attachment to your values, and say, I can have an attachment to my opinion.
You have attachment to your opinion, to my opinion.
And I want to deal with that because it's our opinions that are killing our ability to even have good relationships. You can have an attachment to your opinion to the point that if your opinion is not valued, then you don't feel valued.
Right.
If your opinion is not validated, then you don't feel validated. But now that attachment to that is death to you, and we're going to show you how to get up out of that. Attachment to objects. If you are your car, if you are your clothes, if you are your purse, if you are your relationships, then as soon as that attachment gets hit, it gets crushed. And so we get emotional pain, from mild upset to complete devastation. There's some things where you say, And sometimes you may say to someone, you know, and I don't say that anymore, hey, it ain't that serious. Because that means you may not think it's that serious, but it's that serious to them.
Right.
And so when you say, come on, it ain't that serious. I used to do that. Jill, it ain't that big of a deal. Now, come on.
See, and it doesn't matter whether you feel functional, whether what you feel is functional or dysfunctional. It is still what you feel, and it means something to you. And so my problem in that is that I was one of them, just get over it.
Right.
Just get over it.
And
but
that's
not right for me
up.
to say
that would
to someone.
And especially if someone who doesn't know how to talk, and then I'm sharing what little I do know how to share, and then she says, well, just get over it. Well, now I feel completely disrespected. I feel completely not validated, because this is, and you got to understand this, sisters, when a man is trying to share with you, but he don't have the words, it don't mean he don't feel it. He just hasn't had the practice of how to talk and how to really get it out. And if you get impatient, well, just get over it, you get impatient with it, and you push it like that, then what's going to happen? He's going to clam up. He's going to shut down, because I would walk away very angry, because I'm saying, I know I feel something, but I don't need you to be short with me to push it. So now we go through this, and then we blindly pursue happiness in our relationships while we're being attached. The truth about relationships, that is, whoever brings us happiness, sooner or later is going to bring us pain. No doubt. Whoever brings us happiness, I don't care who they are or what it is, sooner or later they're going to bring pain. And I wrote this especially for some of the people here, and that is, what we're seeking is the illusion of a pain-free relationship. Impossible. You're seeking a pain-free relationship. Now, I want to share this with you, that when you are now attached, and I watch women, and I'm going to talk about women, I watch women size men up, and you size men up based upon your attachments. Do they meet this attachment criteria? And then what you try to do is have a relationship, but then not let your feelings get hurt. Well, if you're attached to something, your feelings are going to get hurt. When you think you got it, the emptiness will return. So when you think you have a good relationship and it's a pain-filled relationship, it's a pain-free relationship, that emptiness is going to return, because you will never be able to fill that hole in your soul. Right. Unless you do it with love. And so if I read it, only love can fill the hole in your soul. Matthew 22:37. Love the Lord with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. That's the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love the Lord as you love yourself. Well, if you can't love yourself and you can't feel, if that hole in your soul is not filled, no one will make you happy. I remember this one guy, this guy loved his wife. I mean, he loved her. And I remember asking him one day, we was doing some work here, doing something, and I said, why don't you have a cell phone? He said, because of my wife. And I said, why not? He said, because my wife is, she's jealous all the time. I said, really? He said, yeah, she calls, so I just decided not to have a cell phone. I said, really? His wife had an attachment to him dealing with anybody. He said, I can't even say hello to somebody in the hallway without her thinking something was going on. And so now he curtailed himself, and the reason she felt like this is because she could not do what? Love herself. So if you're going to get chemistry, you have to go through the undoing. There's that word again, the undoing. And we learned that the undoing is unlearning. It is the unlearning and the conditioning, the beliefs and the values you have until now. See, I'm going to tell you, you'll never have a relationship if you don't unlearn who you became.
That's it.
See, some of you, I mean, you can go on any type of dating service. You can go out with a great person. But if you have not unlearned what you've learned to believe or unlearn what you learned to value, then you're going to have a distorted perception of love. And most people, especially y'all got the TV love thing. You got the movie love thing. Well, they have to solve a relationship in a 20-minute, 27 minutes. They got to solve a relationship in 90 minutes. And so you're waiting for them to come around. That doesn't happen. In Colossians 3:5, it says, so kill, deaden, deprive of power. the evil desire lurking in your members, those animal impulses, all that is earthly in you that is employed in sin, sexual vice, impurity, sexual appetites, unholy desires, and all greed and covetousness. For that is idolatry, defying of self and created things instead, defying of self and created, the deifying of self and the created things instead of God. What I want to deal with is he says, so kill, deaden. Some version says, put to death those things that are going on the inside of you. 2 Peter says, they promise them liberty, and then they themselves are slaves to depravity and defilement. By whatever anyone is made inferior or worse or is overcome, that person or that thing is a slave. It says he is enslaved. So a man is a slave to whatever has him mastered. So with these two scriptures, I put this way: put to death what has mastered you, and you are now the master of. You have to put to death the things that have mastered you. And I told you when I was going over telling them what we're going to do on this, I said, we've mastered the dark side of relationships. Haven't we? Atlanta, would you agree? Have we mastered the dark side? How many would raise your hand? You know, I've mastered that. I am a master at the dark side. Well, now, you got to put that to death, because you have to understand, and this is why it's so confusing, and this is why most people just roll out, because to put to death who you become is great pain. To kill who you have become comes with a lot of pride. But the reason you show up here is that you're saying, I need to put to death what has mastered me, and you are now the master of. And so you have to understand, love is love. You are not in control of love. Love comes your way, or love is there. But if you're trying to control love, then it won't be there.
And you know, Deron, I thought about this, and that is when you were talking about this control and this mastery. See, the dark side of relationships. I could tell you what I didn't like. I couldn't tell you what I did like. It's very dark to only know what you don't like and not to know what you do like. And by the time I try to think about what I do like, I have been deprived of it so many times. I didn't think I had a right to like it. So I would never tell you what I liked. I could only tell you what. Do you understand? If your relationship with me is based on the fact that I'm doing, your focus is the things that I don't like, Jill don't do. That's a dark focus. Because the minute I do something outside of your scope of don't like things, then all the relationship that I thought was good is not. Because our relationship is based on me never doing things that you don't like. That's not possible. I would have to be you to want to do the things that you like all the time. Because sometimes there are things that I like that you don't want to do, and I'm going to choose me.
And that's what you all have, and I know men got it, but sisters, because I'd like to see you get a man, y'all have mastered that, man. Right. Y'all have mastered, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this.
And that's your checklist.
I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, this is nasty, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is this. And you think that that's love when you get into a relationship, and that comes out in the relationship. And so now the brother feels like, I can't do nothing right.
Listen, when you have a don't do list, I am on trial every time I'm with you. I'm on trial. You're waiting to see if I break something on your list so you can judge me for whatever you think, however you judge people who break the rules on your list.
And you've mastered that, and you mastered it, and you think you're okay. But your relationships show, no, you're not okay.
Because that's your separate self. It's
right.
Your separate self, that suspicious self, that distrustful self, that holds on and values what you don't like. But your authentic self wants to come out and do what you do like. If you like to hug right now, your authentic self want to do it because its impulses say hug. But then you go to your checklist and say, want to know, is somebody worthy of hugging? So now somebody's on trial and under your scrutiny when all you had to do is be your authentic self and do it.
So when you get to the point where you're just not affectionate, no, you're affectionate. You're passionate in the bed, but not affectionate in day-to-day life.
Which is an animal instinct, because, animals get it on.
Yeah.
You done caught a couple of them around the neighborhood, and when it's over, they fighting.
There you go.
Is that what you have reduced yourself to?
And so unless I'm just not that type. That's not true. That's who you become. I'm just not that. I can't be. You became hardened. Right. That ain't who you are. Because I guarantee you, if I was your father and I raised you, you would be compassionate. You would be affectionate. You would be able to share how you felt because I would have created that environment.
Right.
Well, because that environment was not created, you become a shell or you become this hard person. That just ain't who I am. Yes, it is.
Well, that's the false self talking.
Right.
Not the real self. The real self knows that you are made in the image of God, and the word love, when you look it up in a Greek, it's going to have affection. It's going to be one of the definitions.
So undoing calls for us to dismantle all illusions that have been responsible for trapping us in relationship chaos. You want to know what a good practice of love is? To get into an argument and still be able to go out and have a good time.
There you go.
A good practice of love is to get upset with your son or your daughter, and although y'all had a serious conversation and it got a little tippy or whatever, you can come back and give them a hug and a kiss and say, come on, let's go do what we got to do. That's what true love is. Yeah. True love is when you can have your balance of your relationship agitated, disturbed, pushed to the side or whatever, and still be able to make the recovery and still end in love.
Job said it this way: should I accept good from God and not accept trouble? What he meant by that is I have to have all those. My relationship has to be well-rounded. I have to have a relationship with you and continue on even when whatever we just went through doesn't make me feel good. So Job is saying, listen, I've had a great life. So right now, things don't look so good. And so when someone else his wife tells him, hey, give up, he said, wait a minute. How did I accept all this good from God? And now that things don't look the way I want them to look, I'm saying that was never a true part of the relationship.
Right.
And this is what we do. We counsel one thing out, things out. I think I told him one time, Deron, that, see, my mistakes do not cancel out the good that I've done. You understand? If you've done great things for me in 2010, in the end of 2010, you do something ultimately stupid, you've just done them both.
There you go. And that's weird. So
and one don't cancel out the other.
We need to become conscious of our unconsciousness. Love, getting chemistry and getting relationship in your family, in your relationship with your children, and whoever, is to become conscious of your unconsciousness. This is where fear gets undone. When we become conscious and accept that we are programmed when we become conscious and accept that we were programmed in a way that enabled the ways we don't want to act to come naturally. Let me try to say it. I wrote it still. Cutting up comes naturally, and we've been programmed into doing that. Kirking out comes naturally. We've been programmed to do that.
Not letting things go comes naturally. You've been programmed to do that.
Shutting down and not sharing how you really feel, that comes naturally. Those things you've been programmed to do. That's not who you are. That's what you've been programmed to do.
That's your second nature. Your first nature is peace.
And our education makes it necessary. And so our education and our culture and our family has made this necessary. The most important to changing is to know this. It is not your hormones, your brain chemicals, your genes, or your less than ideal upbringing that prevents you from creating the relationships you say you want. So now we can talk about our past and you can talk about the programming, but if you want the relationship, it's not your upbringing that prevents you from creating relationships you say you want. If you say I want love, see, if you realize the power that you have within, you can say this is what I want, and then you can bring this into fulfillment and to manifestation. But your mind and your consciousness and your heart has to be lined up with that manifestation. or lined up with what you say you desire. And so we are so powerful, just as there are certain Hank Aaron and other great baseball players, they could get up to the mound or get up to the plate and point and say left field. And no matter what pitch that pitcher threw, he knew that I'm going to send this to left field. Well, in the same way, you can create the relationship that you want. If you say you want a great marriage, if you say you want a great relationship, if you say that I want to be able to talk and not have an attitude, if you say those things, you can create that. Now watch this. It's your beliefs that's preventing you from experiencing these elusive relationships. It's your beliefs. It is my beliefs that keep me from experiencing the loving relationship that I say I want.
Listen, let me give you one of your beliefs.
Can I say it one more time? It is my belief that is keeping me from being a loving person. It is my belief system, my belief that's keeping me from responding like a human being. Go ahead, babes.
I've heard people say that, a good man is one who washes your car. He'll keep my car clean. He'll always make sure my oil is checked. That's your belief. That does not define a man being good. I mean, it's nice, but it ain't necessary.
Suppose he don't even work on computers. He don't even know nothing about cars. Then you ain't no man.
A good man wants to make me happy. A good man may want to make you happy, but happiness is in your control, not his.
Mm-hmm. Change your beliefs and you change your relationship. And this is how we become liars. When your conscious mind knows what to do, and then you act in your unconsciousness, when you act in your unconsciousness and somebody calls you out on what you acted on, you now lie because you feel bad for being caught. Are y'all listening to me? Lie means make all types of rational excuses or reasonings to justify why you did what you did. Are y'all listening to me? Are y'all, Atlanta, are you listening? So the making of a liar is the person who has a conscious mind and you know the right thing to do, but then you go into your default mind, which is your unconscious mind, do the wrong thing, act out in the wrong way, and then get called out on it. And the moment you get called out on it, it is now what you did unconsciously is brought into your conscious. You realize that's wrong, and you realize I knew to do the right thing, but instead of admitting I messed up, I blew it or whatever, you start lying because you don't want to upset that balance, cognitive dissonance. So the year I've spent, listen to me. When a person is willing to lie, see how quiet it's getting? When they're willing to lie, even if when they're willing to paint something pretty, paint it nice, when they're willing to paint religion or paint God over it as opposed to admitting it, they're not going to change until they change. And if you, in your conscious mind, are now trying to get them to line up, they ain't going to line up. Why? Because the line up is to incriminate themselves. And those people who have this have a perfection mindset. And that mind says, I got to come out of this on top. Thus endeth the lesson.